Hello everybody, it's Sandy and welcome to my channel. I have a Copic video for you today and I'm going to share a little bit about how I use my hex chart in this one. I'm going to create a forest critter scene using some brand new stamps just released from the Greeting Farm. And they're really cute little animals. Look at these little guys. They're from two sets called Cuddly Thanks and Wood Friends. They're both really small sets, but the animals are the right size to go together. So I did a bunch of masking in order to create the scene and put them all into one little scene together, and then just started coloring them. I picked E97 to start off with for my deer, and I'm gonna talk through how I use the chart, but mostly if you know a lot of what I do, I like to go by the numbers. I know a lot of people don't understand or believe in the number system for Copic markers, but I do like it in general. There's a lot of rule breaking that I do around it, but here's what E99 and E97 look like. They work well together. Could have left that as a two-color blend, but I looked at my chart and I saw the E97 and 99 in the middle there, and then I wanted to push it to a red. So I chose to use an E09. And that's one of the things the chart can help you do, is find something nearby in the color spectrum that might knock the image in the direction you want it to go. So I wanted to push it a little more redder, and so there I did. The E99 is the mid-tone then, after I've added a third color as the dark, and then I just blend it out with my E97, and I can put extra E97 in there to lighten some of it up. To pick the ear colors, I wanted to go with something in this kind of peachy, orangey type of color frame. So I went with R30 and R32, which were, again, going by the numbers, they're a color family that goes together. So that's where I went with those. And then for the whites, I wanted to go with something up in this region of sort of dirty whites, not grays. So I went with some E4s, which worked really well. I'm going to carry that through the entire thing. Now I need an orange for my fox. So I'm going to start with a YR02, and I'm going to stick this time with the color family that's the YR0s. And color families are ones that have the same letters at the beginning, and then they have the first digit in common. And then the last digit goes from high to low, so from light to dark. So I'm going to use a YR09 to create my shadows here. My lighting on this is coming directly from the left side. So I wanted pretty strong lighting on this just for, I don't know, for effect, I guess. I like strong lighting and good contrast, so that was where I figured I'd land with this one. And YR04 and YR16 are both about the same, but they're both really good mid-tone orange colors, like a really good solid orange. And I'm still allowing my YR02 to be the lightest color. I'm using the same colors again, the E4s for the white parts of this little guy, and I'm going to use the same colors for the ears. So when I pull some colors across the entire image and make them the same, then it's going to add some unity to the entire image. I was going to use my B0s for my little birdie, and I love B02 and B05, but what I was realizing is that I wanted something darker than that. So I went to my chart, and I wanted to look and see what's darker than the B05 and where could I go, and I went like 4 or 5 steps over to get to the B26. Sorry, that was fuzzy. I'm not really sure what happened with the camera there, but I went for a B26. And that's one of those things that this chart can tell you is just take a wander around that section. Here I took a wander around the dim sort of grayed out browns, so they're not really warm browns. I wanted the warm colors to be on the animals, so I wanted something a little darker, a little dimmer. So I went with E74 and E47. And the numbers are reversed, but one is a darker color than the other, one is a grayer color than the other. And that's where knowing the number system can help you understand why that is. But on this chart, you can see them in comparison to each other and know that these are two relatively close to each other ones on the chart, and they're going to give me this kind of really dark grayish brown. So I'm going to add my shadows to that, and I decided I wanted to add something a little warmer. So I picked an E33 just to brighten it up a little bit because it got a little bit too gray. I went with warm grays for my little squirrel, and so I started with my light I didn't go to the color chart on this one because I know my grays pretty well inside out. The grays in this hex chart are on a separate page, so they aren't in that big rainbow. But if you go to the link at the end of this video, you'll see where you can get a chart for yourself and color it in and use this yourself as well. There's also going to be a link to the announcement video telling you more about the chart and how it works and why I did it and all that good stuff. But you can pick all that information up on my blog. So I'm adding all these little hairs and stuff to add some detail to my little squirrel. Just layers and layers of these different warm grays. And I'm going to add the same white color to this little guy. Later on I did remember to add it to the bird's tummy, so don't worry, I didn't skip that. Just didn't do it in order. I'm using the same colors that I used for the deer on the little acorn, because that again is going to tie something together across the entire image. So next is the ground, and I'm going to be cutting off a lot of the ground down below, but I'm going to put some color in there just so that I finish it off kind of thing. And I'm using an E31, which is a kind of really medium to light brown. It's sort of a sandy color. And I'm going to add some other stuff to it, but I just wanted to get some color down here. The marker is running out, so I didn't go very far with it because it had its issues. So then I went back to my E4s, which is what I had used on the whites, and started using those to add some shadows. So the E43 is shadows, and then E41 mixing it with the E31. And those are they both have a numeral 1 at the end, which means they're both really light. And it's starting to really blend it and soften that color. And that's really what I want, for it to just disappear. Don't want it to be an important part of this little drawing. Because next we're going to add a whole lot of fun. A lot of you have seen my Magical Monday videos where I put a lot of forests and trees and things behind stuff. And I thought I'll attempt to explain what I do. It's really hard to explain because it's just something that I naturally, I don't know, it just comes out of me. And I use a wide marker for at least the first color whenever I have a wide marker to fill in a background. And I have a bunch of them. I'll have some links in the description down below for where you can get some yourself. And they're really helpful if you're doing large backgrounds. They're just really good at doing some quick fill in. And you see that I didn't get real fussy and try to make it all really even in the background. I was going to add all these trees on top, so it didn't matter. So I'm using a YG99, which is numerically, again, next in the series to the YG95, or well, a couple away from it. But these two are in a blending group, so they're going to go together. And I'm just adding blocks of, I guess, space between the trees and figuring out sort of randomly where I want my trees to be. I'm going to add a whole lot more layers of color over top of it, so I'm not worried. I'm just kind of scribbling some color in and blocking in some shapes, and then doing some scribbles for the trees up at the top, and just kind of doing some doodling. And I went to my chart to see, those are the YGs down at the bottom, and I wanted something a little bit brighter, a little bit bluer, so I went for a G94 because I wanted to throw just a little bit of a sparkly color in there before I add in my darks, because I wanted the forest to have just some little tiny bits of a brighter color than those kind of dim YGs. And then I went to the chart and I wanted something in the browns, but these browns up here are kind of a greenish brown when you color with them. So I thought they would be great for a forest. I use them a lot when I do forests and things. And I started adding more small details. The further I get in doing my layers, sometimes the layers end up being layers that mush out all the color, and sometimes they just start adding layers of detail. And in this particular case, it's just adding more detail, little branches, little smaller trees in between, smaller spaces between trees, tree trunks, that sort of thing. Sometimes I draw the tree trunk itself, sometimes I draw the space between tree trunks. Really just depends on what comes out of my marker at the time. There's not really a science to it. And then I switched to a slightly lighter E color. It's an E87 instead of the E89. And I'm adding more scribbly detail into all of the little spots to add a lot more of that little tiny branches, little tiny leaves, little tiny detail, and little just dot by dot, that sort of thing. This is sped up 2 times, so it is pretty quick, but it didn't take me all that long to complete this whole piece. It was maybe an hour and 15 minutes or something. So once you get going and once you start to learn how to do this stuff, it's not something that's going to take forever. But as crafters, we don't do this because it's fast. I don't think anybody could ever make that their goal, to have everything be fast. I know a lot of people do videos when they say, yeah, I want to show you the fastest way to do blah blah blah. And I don't necessarily subscribe to that, because we do this because it's fun. We do it because it's relaxing. We do it because we enjoy it. And, you know, even though I say this didn't take all that long, an hour and 15 minutes doesn't seem like a lot to spend on a card to me. It may to you, but I enjoy it, and I hope that you do as well if you're going to be trying something like this, because an hour and 15 minutes of frustration is a lot different than an hour and 15 minutes of fun and relaxing. So I went in with my YG95 sketch marker this time. Just added some scribbly color on top because I wanted to soften some of those areas and leave just a few of those spots of that G94, that bluish green peeking through. And I just wanted to soften some of those trees a little bit. And now I wanted to add a little detail to the ground, and since the light's coming from the left, the shadows will go off to the right. And I'm using my E74 and E47, or oh gosh, those colors that are on the screen there, those are the ones I'm using. I'll put those in before I post the video. But I'm putting those colors in that I used on the tree trunk. And that's, again, going to tie the whole thing together across the image when I use the same colors in one spot that I used in another. And I'm just adding more of the lighter color and then less of the darker color to add 2 tiers to my shading. So I trimmed off some off the top and the bottom like I had planned to do, and added a sentiment from one of the sets in the corner, and there's a little heart in it, so I added that as well. Put some glossy accents on it and a little border with a tiny bit of border punch, and it was done. Very simple to assemble. Here is the promised video on the left that you can go see all about the hex chart itself. A link to get the chart. More information on this project is my blog post about this particular card, and I invite you to subscribe to get lots more videos from me. I hope you enjoyed this. Please leave me a comment in the doobly-doo down below, and I will talk to you guys another time. Have a fabulous, fabulous day. Thank you. Bye-bye.